few remarks, and the first thing is that a year ago at draft night we made a decision to trade Jimmy Butler and start a rebuild, and we thought we got a jump on that with the three pieces we got. Obviously Lowry being the seventh pick, who's a cornerstone of our direction, and then with Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn. Tonight is just an extension of that, and we walk away tonight feeling really good about the two players we drafted and the direction we're heading. So it's a culmination of a lot of work this year. We knew that we were anticipating we were going to have a pick that was fairly high, which happened. We also, when we made the deal for Nicola getting another first-round pick, we knew that was going to hopefully yield a player. So, this year our scouting staff is always terrific. They're out, they work, they see so many players, and and Gar obviously as our GM and at the forefront of all that was out a ton this year, and our staff really did a tremendous job. And when you sit in our positions and you're in a position of rebuilding and you want to keep this thing going in the right direction, tonight's a culmination of all that work, and our staff did a great job. We feel terrific about what we've added. Two positions that were of need, and two players that we feel that fit us and will help us grow, hopefully quickly, and even though we're going to be patient, more quickly than maybe some of these teams have had in the past in rebuilding situations. So with that said, I'm going to let Gar talk a little bit about both Chandler and Wendell.
Well, I think you guys have heard John talk quite a bit about versatility and looking for versatile players. And in our opinion, we got two guys that fit that description. I think they're both really versatile in what they do. And the other thing, you guys that have followed us for a long time, we're going to draft who we feel the best player is on the board. And it just worked out this year in our order that we were able to address two positions where there were holes, where there's a need. In that, in Wendell, we get a big guy who, as just a freshman, a young big, that we think, in really studying his game, is, if you look long term, is a guy that can fit with Lowry. And obviously Lowry's a huge part of what we're trying to build here. But versatile in that, he's got size. He's 6'10", he's got a 7'4" wingspan. He can run the floor and play with pace how we want to play. He can go inside, he can go outside. He's got a developing post game, which is rare for young bigs, and he can step out. He showed this year and shoot the ball on the perimeter. Our kind of guy, terrific character. And Chandler, again, I go back to that word versatility. Long, athletic, 7'1" wingspan, and has got a lot to his game. He's very good defensively. He can put the ball on the floor. He can slash. He can play in the open court. When we saw him play during the season, at times he could even, bring the ball up the floor in transition. Is a streaky shooter, but I think he's got a good stroke, and he'll continue to improve in that area. But is a guy in today's game, gives us a long, athletic wing with upside, and he's gotten better each and every year. And we were both really excited when he was still on the board.
Hey, John, can you just address what were your thoughts on Michael Porter Jr., and did you feel like he was too big a risk at number 7?
Well, first of all, we spent some time with Mike. He's a great young man, and we're not going to talk about things medically, those type of things. We go through a very diligent process every single year, and this year we had probably more debate and dialogue as a staff than we have, because the varying degrees of opinions were really strong. So we hope Michael. I mean, we hope we wish him the best out in Denver, and but tonight it's about us and who we did pick. Wendell at 7 for us was, like Gar mentioned it. We think he's going to be a really good complement to Lowry, and we've got Robin in that position already, so we can bring Wendell in. He can earn his time and his minutes on the floor, and that's a good thing for a young player. So again, we're real thrilled about that.
I'm going to piggyback before we go, because you talked about our scouting staff, and we have a veteran scouting staff, but I'd like to name him Brian Hagan, who's our assistant GM, who kind of heads up the scouting portion for us, just has been with us for years, does a terrific job. Ivica Dukan, who a lot of you know, who I think is the best international scout in the NBA. Steve Wyman, who heads up our analytics but does quite a bit of scouting for us as the guys that cover the colleges, and Dave Bullwinkle, who's just a bulldog, has been with us 12 or 13 years. But our staff does a heck of a job. And when we go into that room up there, most of the work's been done beforehand, but we know absolutely everything that you can know about those players from a background standpoint, a physical standpoint, evaluating their tools and evaluating their games. So I just wanted to shout out to them again.
For either one of you guys, this would probably be, Carter would probably fit in the description of so-called safe pick, but one thing that jumped out about it in talking to him at the Combine was he really feels like his game will jump at the next level because, he was playing a little bit in Bagley's shadow. How much did that factor in your decision, and what kind of concerns, if any, do you have about his lateral quickness and ability to guard in space?
Yeah, I think that's an area where he can improve, and even working with our athletic performance staff, when they evaluated that, they think that's an area that they can make an impact. He's still 19 years old. Physically, he's a man, because he's 6'10", 260. But they still think there's a lot of room for growth, and I think there is in his game also. So, you don't want to put a ceiling on what he could become. And the other thing, Casey, that I didn't mention about both these guys, but they're both our kind of guys. They're really high character, high makeup guys with a work ethic. So, I think we'll be able to see growth in both of them as we move forward.
And the other thing I'll mention about Wendell is, he's just a young guy, and very few draft picks ever are finished products, but and especially in our game where we draft them so young. So he's got a lot of room to grow. I think defensively, as a rim protector, he'll do really well. His verticality at the rim, he's been taught really well in that area. And we all know that in our game today, the bigs have to be able to step out a little bit on the perimeter and guard. But he's a smart kid, and we think he's going to be really good.
Gar, playing devil's advocate in this, and obviously the word safe's been thrown around a lot with Wendell Carter. And
Are you going to play devil's advocate?
I'm going to go on a limb and do that. What's your response to the idea that you just added two guys that are kind of jack of all trades but really master of none, and kind of don't pop in certain things? They may do a lot of things well, but they just don't have like a certain strength that just pops.
Yeah, again, like in Wendell's case, I think because physically he looks like a man, you don't see that upside. We think there is upside to him. And, the interesting thing is John talked about our scouts and all of us. And John and I spent an enormous amount of time on the road evaluating these guys, and then obviously studying film and doing all the work we do. And we were very high on Wendell. And then when you look at his analytics, and we go back, we have 15 years worth of analytics in the draft. He's extremely, extremely high as far as how he produced, the efficiency that he produced with. So it kind of validates, we cross-check it with what we look at statistically. So, hey, we got, obviously we've got to draft who we think the best prospect is on the board that fits our program, fits our team. And we think Wendell's a guy that does that.
Either for John or Gar, considering Lowry got his chance last year because of an incident and really showed what he could do, you've got a guy like Chandler who has got a pretty good upside with his height and wingspan, and also that he is a senior. He played 4 years in college. If he gets an opportunity like that to really show, do you think that he could have the kind of leaps and bounds situation that Lowry had in his first year with the Bulls?
Want to answer that? No, the thing is, we need help at the wing position. We've talked about that. Keep talking about the versatility that's necessary in our game. You see guys like Chandler that can guard different perimeter spots. First of all, these guys are going to have to come in and work first and foremost and earn time on the floor. The one thing that we'll stress to them from day one is, you're not just going to ever walk in here and be handed minutes on the floor. We still have the core of our team intact. We're anticipating that the young guys that we have on this roster currently, Chris, Zach, Lowry, Denzel, Bobby Portis, you go down the list, a lot of what happens with us this year, as we mentioned before, will be their development and their growth as players. We feel these two players complement the team and the roster that we have very well. As much as you want to talk about the game getting away from bigs, big guys and their ability to, still score, catch the ball, score the way the game's going, rim roll. Wendell Carter can rim roll. He's so big and thick, you can't knock him off his spot. So you heard him talking about when he was interviewed after getting drafted. He talked about, he wants to set screens for guys. I mean, this is a young man who's going to fit into the team concept that we want to have. And Chandler will be the same, but they're going to have to come in and earn it, and they'll know that when they get here. But like Gar said, and we do the background that we do. The character of the guy is really important to us, and we want them to come in and fit in, and want them to be great teammates, and we want them to respond to whatever adversity they're going to face, and high character people usually do that.
Hey guys, there was a perception that this was a 6-player draft and you guys were at 7, and leading up into the past couple of days there was a lot of speculation about you possibly moving up into 3 or 4, just talking about teams. How close were you guys? How aggressive were you guys, or were you always satisfied with 7 and 22?
Well, as you know, Vince, we're always looking at opportunities and kind of probing. And so we had conversations with a number of teams as far as going a different direction. How close we got, I don't know, because it takes 2 to make a deal, But we felt we looked into some things that we thought would make sense for us. At the end of the day, we couldn't get a deal done. We certainly thought it was more than a 6-player draft. And, and Wendell being a guy that we've been high on for quite a while.
John, is it, I know you just said about earning minutes and everybody have to compete. Given the fact that, as Gar said, these were 2 positions that you felt need, is it reasonable to consider with Dunn, Levine, and Markkanen, these 2 a starting lineup, say a year or 2 from now?
It's possible, sure. We obviously think that highly of them as skilled players, but no young player comes in or very few of them, I should say, come in as a finished product. And you look down the line, a lot of times statistically, they don't often make a difference, but they're going to get their opportunity to play some. And if they play a lot, they'll have earned playing a lot. But so much of it is going to become, our coaching staff is going to get their hands on them right away. That will be beneficial for them. I think the way that we continue to want to play, they'll fit into that type of system. So again, I always go back to this, Sam. It's a team game. We want our guys to come in. The first thing for young guys is always just to understand how hard they have to work, and that now this is their profession. That all this time leading up for the draft for these guys, it's been fun and exciting for them, and now the real work begins. And it's on us to show them that this is an environment where they can grow as players, and we'll maximize their talents over the years.
I'm hogging the microphone for a second here.
That's something new.
You're allowed.
Yeah, okay. They had, we've heard with Carter coming into the draft about comparisons, and they mentioned, well, Al Horford, which is, all-star, very impressive. Elton Brand on TV, they just said Carlos Boozer. Who do you compare him to?
I'm not good at the comparison game. What we saw in Wendell was just a young guy that, in a lot of ways, he didn't get to showcase so much of his game because when Marvin Bagley reclassified and then signed at Duke late, a lot of their offense would have run through Wendell this year had Marvin not gone there. And the young man sacrificed a lot, in order to be a good teammate and all those things. It's a lot of it speaks to who he is. So again, this is Gar and I were just up there talking. This is a really good night for our organization because we feel like, again, when you look at where we were a year ago and what we decided to do, And 1 year later, we feel like we've added 5 really good young core pieces to build, and that's important to us. So we're excited about the future. We're excited about the direction we're headed.
Gentlemen, these 2 selections in this draft, do they alter or change in any way your plans or strategy for free agency coming up?
Yeah, you know, that's something, you know, we'll start with our pro personnel meetings. Obviously, we have them throughout the year, but tomorrow, looking into July 1, I don't think it does. You know, I don't think it does. We'll go into the summer or into the July period, again, looking for opportunities. Those opportunities will have to fit kind of the direction we're headed and what we're building, and see if something makes sense from there.
Hey guys, there was reports that that Hutchinson had a promise from you guys. Is that accurate? And what made you guys so enamored of his talent?
There are storylines and rumors all the time in this business, and to keep trying to respond to them is often difficult. We like Chandler a lot. We scouted him early. We scouted him often, and we had our eye on him. You know, he knew we liked him. I mean, you know, most players know when you like them, if you show up a lot and you're around. So, he addresses a position of need. You know, we had debates all through this draft on wings and the type of player we wanted at that position. His ability to rebound the ball, take it off the board, make plays. Those are things that are really valuable in our game today, especially the way we want to play, by playing with pace and up tempo. So he fits, but you know, he's still, you know, even though he has 4 years of school, neither of these guys have played pro ball. They're going to have to come in, and you know, summer league's going to, you know, we've seen it over the years, Gar. We've drafted guys high. Sometimes summer league is kind of a jolt for them. They, you know, just figuring the game out, but they're both really smart and talented young players.
John, can you can you characterize how surprised you were or weren't by the moves that happened in front of you during the draft as you kind of watched it unfold?
No, I mean it kind of went as expected in terms of the players. You know, Dallas did what, you know, they made a move to move up and gave up. But these are the things we talk about, and it speaks to, you know, Vince, you asked a question about, you know, possibly moving up. We feel we're in a situation right now in this time of our rebuild that to give up assets, important draft assets, to move up a spot or two, that didn't make sense to us and the way we're planning. We continue to talk every day about being patient, being disciplined in how we make decisions. And, you know, so as we looked at this draft and, you know, the opportunity to move up, it didn't make sense. And we'll go into free agency the same way. We're going to be patient. We're going to try to, if there's value out there that we think we can jump on, we'll certainly do that, or we'll explore that. But we're in the beginning phases of this. But again, tonight we feel like we made some real progress in the direction that we're heading.
John, I just wanted to follow up on one thing on Hutchinson. Not having seen as much Boise State basketball as I usually do, can he create his own shot? Is he going to put on the floor, finish? What kind of a wing is he? Because that's an important position to do those athletic things in the NBA these days.
Yeah, we think he can put it on the floor and create. We do. You know, he got to the lane a lot as a ball handler. His shot is getting better and better. We think he'll be able to shoot it from NBA range, you know, at some point. But that's an area he'll have to work and continue to work. But yeah, you know, Gar and I talk about this all the time. The multiple ball handlers, you know, the more guys you have who can handle and create, pass, with the way our game is and the way the floor is spaced, they're really valuable. We think he can do those things.
It's obviously a star-driven league right here to your left, John. What's the most logical path to maybe getting that next star? Many people believe Carter's a very good player, but not quite that high ceiling. Do you look at trade, free agency, or the draft again now? Like, what's most likely, and how do you approach that?
Well, this is a process. I mean, we're going to look at everything, but you have to, you know, you hope you draft players that can become stars. I mean, we believe that, last year in drafting Lowry, he has the potential. He's got a long way to go, but we believe he has the potential. But when you can get your asset base up and you can wait for opportunities to present themselves, maybe in a trade situation, or if you get cap room in a free agency situation, those are other avenues. But a lot of times it starts with that draft, and we, that's right now that's the stage we're in. We're trying to draft as well as we can, put a core together that we think can play together and win, at least, put a team out that's going to play hard and compete and play the right way. We feel we're in the beginning stages of that.
Does adding another shooter become the big priority for free agency or trade market?
What was the question, Ange?
Does adding another perimeter shooter become the big priority for free agency or the trade?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we'll look at, but I think like John just mentioned, we're going to look at all avenues and see if something makes sense. And if something does, we'll try to jump on it, be opportunistic. But if it doesn't, we're not going to rush into something. We've created, we continue to build the young core. What's really important is the growth of that young core moving forward. Fred and his staff, even this summer again, have done a great job as far as development's concerned. And then we've created a level of flexibility, and we're going to look for opportunities with that. If they present themselves, we'll jump on them. If they don't, like John says, we'll continue to be patient and wait for those right opportunities that we think fit.
You guys talked about your affection for Chandler Hutchinson, and I mean, who doesn't like going to Boise? But
you been to Boise?
Never. Is that the reason going into the draft that your affection for him, that you did not want to mortgage that pick along with 7 to move up? Was that something that was just him, the player itself, as opposed to just 7 in itself and moving up? Do you understand the question?
Yeah,
I think I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think John just touched on this. We explored moving up, and we had talks with teams. With that said, the way we evaluated this draft is we thought we could come at it tonight with 2 good players. We thought the draft was deep enough that early in the 20s we were going to get a player that we liked. So we weren't in a position, that we were going to do multiple assets like that, where I don't think we're in a position yet to do that. We're still building up our asset base. And at least the opportunity didn't present itself where we felt it was worth doing the 2 picks to get where we needed to get.
And the other thing, Vince, you have to understand the teams in front of us, they liked a lot of the players up there too.
Yeah.
So.
That's why I say it takes 2 to, to take it. If we got close, I don't know, maybe we got close, maybe we didn't with what we were talking about. Yeah, I would.
Nothing else? Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Yep.